What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another YouTube video. Thanks for coming to my channel. I wanted to crack down on how much it actually costs to open a convenience store. Now, I know over the last 4 or 5 years of running this store and making these videos, I've called this a grocery store, a boutique, a convenience store, a grocery outlet, a market. I've called it a lot of things, but at the end of the day, it's either a grocery store, a convenience store, or market. It depends on who's talking, really. I mean, they all kind of encompass the same definition. A lot of people would consider this a convenience store because of its size. Other people would consider it a market because it's a kind of a daily market where you pick up fresh stuff like produce, bread, and that stuff's kind of on the daily side of things. Other people would consider a grocery store because it pretty much has everything your normal grocery store would have, but just a smaller selection of each. And yeah, so let's get into this video, guys. Thanks for coming by like usual. I may have touched on this a few times over the years. I've really cracked down the numbers for anyone really interested in opening a grocery store, convenience store just like this one. We run at about 1,700 square feet with a walk-in cooler and a prep food area for all of our prep meals. This is in Canada, Ontario to be precise, and it may vary obviously from where you are. I mean, New York's going to be more than a small town in, you know, Ontario, for example, but it all comes with trying to be relative to you guys and keeping it open and honest on this channel. And I don't mind discussing numbers or how much we make, but I think this is important to anyone aspiring to open their own small business and really see what it takes to run something like this. So if you are new here or you're just coming back to this channel, we started our own coffee business. We serve our coffee in store. We sell this coffee in store, and now we are actually offering it online at 13grand.com. You can try our in-store coffee through the link down below. If you're interested in that, we roast with a partner that I've known many years. He's been roasting forever, so it's just really good coffee. If you're interested and you want to try what we serve here at our store, take a little piece home with you, then it's in the link down below. So thank you. I called every bag of coffee a different part of being an entrepreneur. That's literally what I live, breathe, and eat, is entrepreneurship. And if you're into any of that, I suggest you subscribe down below and like this video, because it just helps this channel keep growing as well as this small business. My personal experience on how much it took to start this store, I'm gonna break it down piece by piece so you have an idea on what you're actually getting yourself into and how much each section is gonna cost. So then you can kind of keep it relative to your own experience or your own business venture. So in my experience, I did all the renovations in here. We literally built everything from the ground up. There was nothing here but a cold shell, just some drywall, no floor, no electricity, nothing like that. In your experience, you may find a setup or a business that went out of business and you just have to bring in your shelving and your inventory. That's also a good way on saving money. Just keep in mind, the more the space is done and looks good, the higher the rent will be. If you have to spend your money on the leasehold improvements, the rent should be lower because you are putting your own money into fixing it up. So my number one expense, to get right into it, was the electrical. Between lighting, proper outlets for the heavy duty coolers, the walk-in cooler connections, the breaker panels, and just getting electrical to this unit set up properly, cost me about $30,000. Now, I always recommend getting 3 quotes for anything, any job you're doing for your business. This was actually the lowest quote, and the people that we trusted, it was a local business that was actually in the same plaza as us. So, you know, that really took me by surprise. I didn't know how much electrical could cost for something like this. And yeah, that was our biggest expense. So it should be relative no matter where you are. That electrical will probably be your biggest expense in your store besides your starting inventory. But yeah, that's what it cost us, and it was a hard pill to swallow when I expected it to be like half of that maybe. But really, this is my first business. This is the first time I ever had to do such a big electrical project, and it really hit me by surprise. So hope you have a little bit better warning than I did. The next really big expense was our cold storage, so our walk-in cooler. That walk-in cooler is pretty much the basis of this entire business. Without it, we wouldn't be able to have fresh produce, you know, a lot of pastries are cold, are kept cold, any dairy products, eggs, cheese, milk, all that kind of stuff. You know, certain times we keep bread in the coolers if it's not selling fast enough. Now, just keep in mind, if you really can't afford a walk-in cooler, you could get away with just doing it with display coolers, but you're going to be shopping a lot more. You're going to be trying to keep things fresh. I really suggest having some sort of cold storage because you need things on hand all the time. If you're busy enough, you do not want to have to run to a wholesaler really quick to grab more oranges or grab more milk. You want to have things on hand, so you're kind of a real store that always has things available. Once you start running out of too many things, people will stop showing up. So cold storage cost me $13,000. That's a full walk-in cooler. I think it's like, you know, 150 square feet, and it served its purpose many times over. It's been paid off many times over by the products that it stores for us. So yeah, can't avoid that. Next expense, you'll see that we kind of had to make this place have a certain aesthetic. We wanted it to kind of look like a modern-y farmhouse rustic feel. So we did all of our painting and we did our tiles. I'm just trying to remember if there was anything else that we really did. That's just kind of the groundwork around here. So let's just say tiles and painting to get that all set up and done was about $6,000, and that was a really good price because number one, we helped out the person that laid them for us, so we were involved with that. The painting, we did most of that ourselves except for spraying the roof. We had to spray the roof all black. Someone else did that for us. So that was what that costed, and I know the prices of that are low compared to what they are now. So we really lucked out on getting the renovations done for that cheap, like the tiles and the paint. So you're looking at about $6,000 at the time, and that was a deal because we did kind of a lot of the work ourselves as well. This expense that was a bigger expense, but not in the top, you know, stressors, I would say, was our shelving. So all of our produce bunks that you've seen throughout the store, that's what we started with. None of these high racks around here is what we started with. We added a lot more as we went on. We really had to build this thing as we went along. We started with these brown bunks that you see here. There's a couple more coolers. We had these two coolers when we opened. They've broken down many times. They costed us a bunch of money to fix. And that little cooler over there. And we had a couple random little shelves here and there, but those have been replaced and, you know, filled with bigger shelves for more items. That's kind of what we did just to keep the place growing, is getting more inventory, right? That leads us into our next expense, inventory, which is one of the high ones as well. But for shelving, and we started really low, honestly, was $5,000. That's with our coolers, with our tables in the back, and with your push carts. So $5,000 was shelving, coolers, and carts. And that's all used coolers. These are bunks that, again, we had someone we know help make them. So that's why we got kind of a budget. Nowadays, you know, if we included all of our shelving, it'd be a whole nother story. We just added a lot more over the years. We've really built this place bit by bit by bit. None of this really existed the way it is now. We really had to start off very modestly, we'll say. So the next category is our point of sale system and our kind of working computer. I'll add, you know, small things like a phone, like the work phone and office supplies into this. So let's go point of sale system and office. And that's, you know, our office and point of sales is run on the same kind of computer and iPad. We use an iPad. I'm not even sure the model anymore. We got it when we opened to run our tills, and that's run through a system called Shopkeep or Lightspeed. Lightspeed I would recommend to you guys. It's really been effective on keeping track of our inventory. And that also has a monthly cost too, which is a whole nother video on how much it costs to run the store monthly. But just to buy the initial equipment, we're saying about $4,000. That's, you know, all of our office supplies, work phones, computer for the back, and iPad, the iPad holder, the cash system, the printer, right around $4,000, which honestly I didn't expect that to be that much. That's also considered on the cheap side, because actual big box stores use point of sale systems that can cost $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. So if you're starting small like me, just look for the iPad, you know, point of sale systems. They do the job great. They keep track of your inventory, they keep track of your sales for years, and it's just nice to not have to spend so much anymore on a point of sale system. One of my biggest regrets is we started with a very, very light inventory, and people came in, didn't see that we had much, and decided it wasn't worth it. And some of those people will never come back, because usually almost have one chance with people in retail. They'll check you out when you first open, and then they may never come back if they think it's not worth it. Our starting inventory was very light. I started with just fruits and vegetables and, you know, some dairy, and we probably spent maybe $6,000 to $7,000 to start on inventory, which is very light for a store this size. The place kind of looked empty. I'm not gonna lie, a lot of people came in and really didn't know what to buy. It was, you know, all your basic fruits and vegetables, all your berries, bananas, citrus, apples, you know, a full dairy section, and a little bit of bread as well. But yeah, it was very light, and that's all we could afford at the time. That's why we started it with such a light inventory. So as you can see, we really expanded that inventory probably 4 times now, 5 times now. So right around $35,000 of standing inventory, and that's a lot to keep track of. And that's why I say get a good point of sale system that keeps track of all your inventory. But us starting with $7,000 was really on the low end, and if you really can, I suggest getting a little bit more funding. Make sure you have a full store on your grand opening, because on your grand opening, that's your first impression. It may be your only impression with a lot of people, and you really want them to be, okay, this is a store in my neighborhood that I can find the things I want, or even do a full shopping, have a full shopping experience here. And then you'll be able to retain that customer right from the start, forever almost, if you do things right. So just keep that in mind when you're budgeting, that you really want to make sure you have a full store on the grand opening. That's something that if I do open a second spot or a bigger store one day somewhere else, I don't know where, I'll make sure the store is full. So just keep that in mind. All right, let's get to the total, and I'll add a few more. So another really unexpected cost that I didn't really know how much would be before getting into this, yes, I should have done more research, was the actual engineering plans to lay out the whole store, lay out the lighting with the electrical system, lay out, you know, where the doors were going to be and where the entrances and fire exits were going to connect to. So the engineering plans actually costed me about $4,500 to $5,000, and that's the city permits being approved by the city. So this is something that you'll need to consider no matter where you live. There's going to be permits that you need to obtain, food licenses, business licenses, registering your business, you know, with all the different systems in your area. Mine was, you know, generally speaking, pretty standard across Canada, and it may vary region to region from where you're at. So just know you're going to need some engineering plans. They're going to need to be approved by the city. Another thing that I regret not spending more on was signage. We put up a small, thin sign with just our logo. It was about $500, and that's very, very cheap. We ended up upgrading it 3 years later. We did some other signage in the store. As you can see, all these little signs hanging up there. Those actually cost the same as the sign we did outside. So it was a very thin, like almost like, you know, like a plywood kind of painted white. It's not the right material, but it was like a plasticky look, very cheap. It did the job for a while, but then we upgraded to something you could almost see from space with some lights. I really recommend not cheaping out on your signage. It's the first impression. Shows people you are serious about your business. They can see it from far away. They can see it at night when you're not open. And yeah, that cost us only $500. I regret not spending a little more and getting something a little bigger. Okay, and lastly, the rent. The landlord required first and last for us to sign the lease. That was $3,000 for the first month of our lease and $3,000 for the last month of our lease. It's a 60-month lease, so we're approaching the very end of that, and we still have that $3,000 as a security deposit or last month's rent, whatever you want to call it. With this landlord, he called it first and last. So that was a $6,000 expense right off the top that I knew was coming, so I did plan for that one. Usually most landlords will ask for first and last. Some regions don't allow that anymore, so a lot of landlords will do first and a security deposit. So you can't just run away, I guess, with just paying the first month of rent. So yeah, that was $6,000, and let's total it up and see where we're at. If you totaled my overall expenses throughout this video, it cost us about $75,000 to open this store. We're gonna round that up to about $80,000, just because there's always extra miscellaneous costs, you know, an extra pen pack here, an extra highlighter there, an extra cord there, you know, an extra lunch here. So about $80,000 was our total to open up this store. I hope that clears up any of the questions you guys had. And if you are still watching this video, I hope you subscribe down below and check out our coffee in the link in the description. Best tasting coffee you'll ever have. Thanks for watching this video. I'm a little off, I'm a little stiff because my mom's actually here today doing some cooking, so she's listening to everything and probably judging me. So if I'm a little off, that's why.